Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this. Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
May I present to you the cat?
I am the dog. Well, I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I am here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Hey!
And we are here to talk all things tech this week. And a couple weeks before, too, because we did miss last week, so yeah. Man.
There wasn't much happening, listener. Let's be honest. Slow.
It's not.
Slow.
There's, I mean, lots of rumors, lots of things. Like we were mentioning when we recorded last, it's kind of that dead zone of stuff. Little things might be coming out, little rumors, so that's kind of what we have.
I blame Apple. They're supposed to have a March event. They didn't this year. It's just rude.
True. That's true. We all expected new iPads at the end of March, and here we are. It's April, and there's no new iPads. Apple.
Rude.
It's their April Fools. It'll make it come out tomorrow. How's that? April Fools, everyone. We have an event.
Yeah, the April Fools would be like, hey, you get new iPads today, and then it's not real. There's no new iPads.
That would be pretty mean, huh?
That would be hilarious, actually.
Yes.
I would kind of love that.
Well, since we're talking about April Fools, we have a category here we're gonna hit first. It's our April Fools category that we have noted that we wanted to mention that was pretty funny from tech industries that like to put out April Fools presses or little notes to say, hey, we're gonna do this or this is happening. Haha, April Fools. So
yeah,
we have a couple here, and I'll go ahead and I'll read off the top one that we got here. The first one, Cyberpunk 2077 floppy disk edition.
Yeah. CD Projekt Red released a press announcement of a retro limited edition floppy disk version of Cyberpunk 2077, which, hold on, I gotta actually look at it in order to get this number right, is going to be installed on 97,619 3.5-inch diskettes. So, listener, if you're below the age of, say, I don't know, 24, what these are is they're little plastic squares that are the same kind of shape and appearance as the save icon in Microsoft Word. And that's, yeah, they're an archaic mode of storing data that would allow you to store, I think, up to 1 megabyte on some of the later discs. I think they had 1 megabyte versions, so you could store 1 megabyte of data on these diskettes, and they're still used in some nuclear missile sites throughout the country because that's how the U.S. military works sometimes. Anyways, actually, I think they did finally phase those out a couple of years ago.
It was about 8 or 9 years ago that my work was still using them to load programs onto machines.
Oh dear.
Now they
amazing.
actually wired up all the machines to use the network system, which makes sense. But but up until then, it was literally loading programs onto a floppy disk and putting it failed more often than it worked, actually.
I believe that. The saving grace there is that at the very least, I'm sure they were using software that was from about the same time period as the floppy disks and not software that came out 2 years ago.
At that time, we were still using Windows XP as well.
There you go. That's beautiful. Just, wow, Windows XP. What a juggernaut. Can't kill it. So yeah, I liked that one. I thought that was pretty good. And somebody at CD Projekt Red did the math and figured out how many floppies would it take to install Cyberpunk 2077. And holy crap, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, the next one that we got here is the Spudger Pro Ultra.
Yes, iFixit. It's great. Landon found this one, but I went and watched the video, and it's a YouTube short on iFixit's YouTube channel. You should go watch it, listener. They introduce, they talk about how the Spudger, as a cute little prying tool, is in just about every single one of their teardowns, and it's a tool that they sell that they recommend to pretty much everybody, but that there's cases where you want something a little bit bigger, and so they introduced the Spudger. There's 3 of them that are in there. There's like one that's twice the size of the normal Spudger, one that's 5 times the size of the normal Spudger, and then the Spudger Pro Ultra, which is over 5 feet long and about 6 inches in diameter. It's just, it's cartoonish and hilarious, and I love it. And yeah, you should watch that short.
Okay, I'll have to. I haven't seen it. All right. The next one. This one is the MKBHD. They have a robot cameraman.
Yeah, this was another YouTube short that MKBHD put out where Marquez is updating the studio tour or whatever. He's got a guy following around with a camera, and he's like, hey, here's this thing. Here's the little coffin that we used in that Small Phones video, and yada, yada, yada. And then in the background, a robot walks through holding a camera, and he's just kind of like, we're not really showing that off yet. And that's all it is, just like a CG robot. And but the CG it's decent. It's tracked in there really pretty good. Looks pretty solid. And they clearly stole the concept of the humanoid robots that Tesla is supposed to be developing, which cracks me up because the robots that Tesla is supposedly developing was a dude in a suit, like in a spandex. So I don't know, but it was good. It was a fun little video.
Nice.
I think of all the tech YouTubers, MKBHD, when he does these little April Fool's things, he does them the most tastefully. And I tend to prefer his over something like the Linus Media Group's YouTube shenanigans around April Fool's Day, where this year it was a video about how they're moving back into the house that they used to run the company out of, but they're not actually downsizing the number of employees they have. And when they were in that house, they had 10 employees. They have over 100 now. And so they just, I guess Linus still owns that house and it's a rental property. And so they had, I don't know, kicked the tenants out or something like that. And they shoved the entire company into that house for a day and filmed a new quote unquote studio tour, and it was a bit much.
Yeah.
Just put it that way.
I think my favorite one that Marquez has done though was a few years ago when he did a review on the Samsung Bixby speaker. And this was before Samsung had actually announced one, which they did announce, listener. They just have never actually come out with one.
They never launched
it. He did a full-on review of it, and it was hilarious. And it was like, it would speak back to him, and it would be completely wrong, and all sorts. It was just so funny.
I had to go look that one up. I actually did in our Slack channel. I did post a headline that seemed like an April Fool's Day joke to me from The Verge. That Samsung says Bixby's still not dead. But I did actually read the article. Turns out, no, Samsung actually apparently is still developing Bixby.
I mean, Bixby does still live on Samsung phones.
Sure.
It does.
I wish that was an April Fool's joke. It feels like one. It feels like one. It wasn't, but it feels like one.
All right. The next one. The MacBooks I wish Apple would make.
Yeah, so I wrote that line, but it was Landon that found the article, and 12-inch MacBooks that are M3 powered and come in 5 colors was unibody design that's in 5 different colors.
It was a tweet by this guy. His name on Twitter is the Basic Apple Guy, and he says, Apple announces MacBook 12-inch liquid retina display M3 5 dual-tone unibody colors for $899. And then he's got mocked up some like a Safari page with MacBook in bright colors, and then like all the different ones like kind of closing in on each other like Apple does, and then some like press renders of each different color of all these different laptops. And there's orange, purple, blue, red, and green. And they look amazing. I really wish Apple would do this. But unfortunately, it's April 1st, and so we have to.
I'm looking at the renders right now, and I want this laptop so bad. Apple, come on. Do something fun with your laptops, you dorks. My gosh.
That good, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Looks really good.
All right. Last but not least, this one gets me. Nvidia buys Xbox.
Yep.
Hey, credit again to Landon. Landon found this one. He found this one. So go ahead, Landon. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, the article I found, it was like a full-on article explaining everything that was going to be happening. So Nvidia buys the Xbox brand from Microsoft and will be releasing a new Xbox to compete with the PlayStation Pro next in 2025, and using GeForce graphics, all this different. It was a very well written article. Like if you didn't know what day it was, you could have been fooled by this if you don't follow the industry at all, like we do. But it was
you could have.
It was so TweakTown is the site this was published on, and the headline is Nvidia buys Xbox brand from Microsoft. Next gen Xbox has dual GPUs, AI to fight PlayStation 6.
Yeah.
And that it's going to be launching in 2025, which is just okay.
That is pretty funny.
It's
PlayStation
kind of
wins console war. Xbox sells everything.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So the thing that I love about it is like they have a bunch of different pictures that are 100% AI generated, and some of them are like not like totally terrible, but there's one here that is like that's just, it's, if you know anything about what the inside of a computer is supposed to look like, you just look at this thing and you're like, WTF am I even looking at here? What the crap is seriously the point?
Yeah.
It's got like 4 fans on the front, 2 of which appear to be pointing at nothing. And there's like a whole side panel that is open with just a block sitting on top of where you would think a CPU would be, but there's no fans or any cooling apparatus connected to it. There's RAM slots that have no RAM in them. They're just not populated, and a whole stack of PCI slots that again have nothing in them, and like little nubbins that look like they're IO that just dead end against a steel plate and all this. Anyways, it's just goofy as snot.
Well, I also love there's 4 different like pictures on here on this article, and they're all different. Like it's
completely
it's
different.
all of what you would think would be the next version of the Xbox, and every single one is completely different. And I love, my favorite one is the one that's like an actual cube like box. It's like the size of a mini fridge. It's not the look of a mini fridge like the current Xbox. It's the size of one. And it's massive with 4 fans on the outside, and it's just fantastic.
That thing looks so silly.
I kind of wish they would actually make that as an Xbox, you know? Be great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so, and like, what are those things on the bottoms of that case supposed to be? I don't even know. It just looks so ridiculous.
They're fantastic.
Anyways, yeah. Procedurally generated AI crap images, but it's an April Fool's joke. So I think that is the appropriate amount of effort to put into it.
Yes,
absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's our April Fools that we wanted to mention that came out there. I think the one that will always stick with me, April Fools, this is way back in the day, but it was IGN when they did that preview of the Legend of Zelda movie. Did you ever see that? Where they actually did, like, they had their reporters and everyone did a full-on, like, this is the Legend of Zelda. Like they did it as if it was a trailer. They released a trailer that was the Legend of Zelda movie. I remember, I haven't seen it in years, so it probably looks terrible compared to now. But I remember seeing that and actually believing like, oh my gosh, no way. And then later I'm like, dang it was April Fool's.
I still, the one that always gets me, mainly because this is a product that I'm still pissed off doesn't exist, was when Innova, who make Frisbee golf Frisbees, announced that they had partnered with Tile to release discs that had an integrated Tile tracker in them. And I was like, oh, no more losing discs at Blind Gulch.
Yeah.
And no, it wasn't real, and I was so upset.
Yeah, I would have had to buy all new discs, and it would have been expensive, but it would have been worth it.
It would have been like one of those, at the very least, I have to buy one of these things so that if I'm throwing somewhere where I know that there's a really good chance I'm going to wind up in the bushes and never find the disc, I'll throw that one, you know?
Yeah.
Just, man, I wish that thing was real. Yes, I can buy a Frisbee and then I can buy an AirTag and like hot glue it to the underside of the Frisbee. Yeah, sure. But, just integrate it. Just do my job for me, Innova. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm still surprised that isn't a thing. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, honestly. Look, if Vibram was still making discs, it probably would be.
Yeah.
Because they actually liked to innovate and do stuff like make Frisbees out of people's old shoes, which very, very innovative.
So innovative. All right. We'll go ahead and we'll move on to our next topic here. We got some Apple news here. Yes, I'm going to read this correctly. Says, Google announces RCS launching on iOS in fall 2024.
Yeah. This was kind of an accident how this happened.
Oh, they did. This was no accident. I can guarantee.
This was no accident.
I can guarantee that Google did this on purpose.
Google is trying to play it off as an accident. It's called plausible deniability.
It's true. It's true. So what happened, listeners? Google made a new landing page talking about Google Messages and some of the features on there. And RCS obviously is a major feature, and they like to stick it to Apple that Apple hasn't actually. I mean, Apple has said they will be bringing RCS to the iPhone later this in, what did they say, late in 2024 or something like that?
Yeah, I think they just said, well, they announced it last year. They just said next year.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have a time frame really.
Yeah, and we were all expecting it to just happen with iOS 18 because that makes the most sense. But on this landing page, in one of the little drop-down menus, like see new features, it showed, I got to read exactly what it said, because it was pretty great. So they said, Apple has announced it will be adopting RCS in the fall of 2024. Once that happens, it will mean better messaging experience for everyone. So that's what was on this landing page. Apple has announced, supposedly, that it will be coming in the fall. That hasn't happened. So Google says that Apple said this, and I love it. Now, if you go to this page now, you won't find it there. It has been taken down. At least that portion of the page has been taken down, unfortunately. So was this a mistake? I genuinely don't think so. I think they put it up just long enough that they knew people would see it and then took it down, because these tech companies are petty like that, and it's fantastic. I love things like this. It's great.
Yep.
Now,
that's awesome.
I do think that Apple will be bringing RCS in the fall with iOS 18. I wouldn't be surprised if it was announced at WWDC that they're going to be doing this. They may wait until September when iOS actually launches, but I would not be surprised if they announce it at WWDC, because that makes the most sense. That's when they always talk about iOS stuff. So
yeah,
we'll find out.
I fully expect them to announce RCS at WWDC in the context of like, hey, we've been working with the GSM consortium and we've convinced them to update RCS in this new and awesome way that basically is just all the stuff that Google did to their own implementation of RCS without
Yeah.
waiting for the GSM consortium to catch up on the standard. And so they're going to be like, and so now it's going to be, because we're here, suddenly it's going to be better because of all these things.
Yeah.
And that, they'll spin doctor it like crazy, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what they do.
It's going to be, quote unquote, more secure because it's end-to-end encrypted. It's like, well, that is the case already with Google messaging. So good job,
Yes.
Apple. You invented a new thing.
They're not going to talk about Google's version.
Oh, no.
They're going to
definitely
talk
not.
about the generic RCS standard, which is currently not end-to-end encrypted. And so they'll be like, but it is now. You're welcome, world. And we'll all be like, nobody else was using it unencrypted, just for the record. But okay, whatever.
But it's a good thing, right?
Oh, it's definitely a good thing.
I mean, it is a good thing. It's just, whatever. Apple spin doctoring is just a way of life.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We'll move on to here. WWDC. It's a thing.
I guess.
I was going to let you say it.
So, Apple announced officially their WWDC event. It is confirmed for June 10th through the 14th. There's going to be a keynote event on the 10th. There will be an in-person component to that, which means that the entire thing has been pre-recorded, right? It's going to be a pre-recorded event, but if you're in the tech press, you can go show up to Apple's campus and sit in their auditorium and watch it on the big screen. And then presumably get to go play with some of the software afterwards, I would assume.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point? But yes, that's happening June 10th, confirmed. And they're doing stuff like announcing the student scholar winners and sending out invites and that kind of thing. So that's all happening. And now there's going to be a whole bunch of insane speculation about what iOS 18 is going to include over the next couple of few months here. And I'm not going to talk about any of it. I pledge to you now, listener. We're going to wait until WWDC actually happens. Then we'll talk about the stuff that is confirmed.
Well, is that everything we want to talk about for WWDC?
Yep.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on. Well, we're going to move over to some Google news here. Looks like we've got Gemini Nano coming to Pixel 8.
Yeah, so Google, when they announced the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro, they also announced Gemini Nano would be coming to the Pixel 8 Pro. And people thought, like, onboard Gemini, like using Gemini on device with the Pixel 8 Pro, and people thought, well, that's rather odd that it's not coming to the Pixel 8, considering they use the same Tensor G3 chip, across both devices. So everyone just assumed, well, maybe it's a RAM issue. But then Samsung announced the Galaxy S24, and the base model of that also has 8 gigs of RAM, as the same as the Pixel 8, running Gemini Nano on device. So everyone's like, wait a minute. Google, what's up with that? So they've come out and said that coming in the next Pixel drop, which is supposed to be in June, I believe, is what they've said, that Gemini Nano will now be on the Pixel 8 as is on the Pixel 8 Pro. So it's just interesting that it took them 6 months to do that when it, I mean, maybe
did they say why exactly?
No, they really didn't give a real reason. Like the thing that they said is, we've seen a lot of excitement from users and developers since Pixel 8 Pro became the first smartphone to get Gemini Nano last year. Running large language models on phones with different memory specs can deliver different user experiences. So that's like, they're kind of leaning into that, but they didn't fully say that. And it says, so we have been testing and validating this on Pixel 8. We're excited to provide the opportunity for more enthusiasts and developers to try out Gemini Nano, where we hope to get more feedback and see more innovation. So that may have been part of the issue, and they were just making sure that it worked better or tweaking things. I don't know, but it's funny that it came to a lesser, quote unquote, lesser device in the S24 base model before it came to Google's own phone. But
right.
It's weird. Google's just doing strange things.
Fair enough. All right. Move on to the next thing. Gmail. It turns 20.
Yeah, this was
Holy cow.
and it happened on April 1st. So and it was funny because initially when they announced it 20 years ago, everyone thought, "Wait a minute, is this an April Fool's joke?" And then it lasted past that, and we're like, "Oh, never mind. Gmail is a thing." And Gmail is one of those things that, I mean, there's a few things in the tech industry that just changes the way we do everything, and Gmail is kind of one of those things. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't have some form of a Gmail account. There are people out there, just not very many of them, and generally they're, maybe 80 or something like that. The older generations, because they don't have email. Maybe, I don't know. Even them probably have a Gmail account of some sort. But it's interesting. It's been 20 years since that happened, and I have to say, I have to thank Caleb, because he was the one that sent me an invite to Gmail within
I only had 3.
Yeah.
So you lucked out.
Yes. I mean, it was really soon after it launched. You were able to get into it somehow, and then you sent me an invite to it, and I've been using it ever since.
Yeah, it was Cameron that sent me my invite, as I recall, because it started out invite only, and so 20 years ago, 2004. When did I actually get Gmail? Probably would have been 2005, I think.
Was it that? I thought it was earlier than that we had it, because it was invite only for not. Well, I mean, it was for a while, but I mean, didn't think
it was invite only for a while. They started giving you more and more invites as time went on. But, well, I don't know. I guess maybe it was late 2004 or something like that. Because I know it wasn't brand new. But yeah, it was probably within the first year of it existing. And I still have that email address.
I still have, I guess that my original Gmail account is the one that I still use as my main email.
That's cool.
Yep. I've still got that, and I have stopped giving it to companies online because holy crap.
Seriously.
The spam.
Mine, I love giving it to people, because I'm not going to say it on the podcast because I'm not stupid. But it's one that everyone looks at me like, wait, that's really what it is? Mm-hmm. And it's not like the first email you make when you're 10 years old and it's something stupid. No, it's clever, I think, but it's not typical of what most people do for an email, and that's why I still use it for most things, because it's great. The looks I get, wait a minute.
Mine was very much the kind of stupid thing you do when you're 10 years old. And look, I just really liked Lord of the Rings, okay? And I was super into Lord of the Rings at the time. Come on, it was 2004. Everybody was into Lord of the Rings at the time.
It's good.
It's fair.
I remember when I got it, I want to say mine came a lot later than you guys, so I graduated after that, and I didn't have I used the Hotmail account.
Hotmail.
So forever.
Yeah. Oh, I still have a Hotmail account too somewhere.
I remember I got it later. I think it was my brother that invited me, because he was getting that Google, what was it, the G1, that first Google phone.
Yeah.
And so he was setting his stuff up and everything, and he's like, oh, hey, they gave me to invite only or something. It was something like that. It was somewhere around that time. It just vaguely, I remember, I was like, okay, I'll start one. Sure, why not? And then that was kind of around that time when I started. I think that's when it was. I could be cross, but I remember I got it from him.
Well, the G1, I'm like, okay. The G1 came out in 2008. I believe either 2008 or 2009.
It was something like that. And I remember it was around that time. He's like, here, try this. Google's got, because remember Google, when they came out with Gmail, it had a couple other new features that others didn't. It was something special about it. They're like, you need to use this, and I was like, okay, you know.
I mean, the special thing to me was the fact that it like loaded consistently and didn't look like trash, and
Right.
it had an integrated messenger, which was kind of nice instead of having to have a completely separate, like, you know, these weren't desktop applications at the time. I wasn't using like Thunderbird for an email client or anything like that. Like I was on the website actually using the thing. And at the time, the only option for instant messaging was like flipping. You had to pull up a different tabs didn't exist, a different browser window that was, you know, MSN Messenger or something like that. And it was just really nice that I could like have my email and also just a little chat down in the corner.
Yep. There was something, but yeah, I do use that email still for certain things. I don't use it as a main driver, but it's certain things I have it for. So,
well, it's because you still have an AOL account that you use for everything, right?
That's right. Yeah, AOL. No, it's that Hotmail one.
You know, you've just made me super curious. Like, how old is my oldest email on my Gmail account?
Jeez, I don't know. We'll find out. Well, while you look at that, got some general tech news here. We're going to talk about a budget phone nobody should buy.
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, like I'm not even I'll say the name of this phone, but I'm not going to give you the specs, even though I think this is actually a decent phone. It's the Moto G Power 5G. Motorola has done pretty well when it comes to budget phones. It's a $300 phone, so it's not super expensive. But the worst part about this phone is something that I mean, there might be phones that still do this, but I wouldn't expect a $300 phone to do this. It has ads on the lock screen.
Oh.
Like, that's something I remember phones doing, 10 years ago. If you paid $30 for the phone, maybe $100 at most, but like, you're paying $300 for this phone, and then you're getting ads on the lock screen. I mean, come on. Well, it's not Motorola. It's Lenovo. They own Motorola. I mean, what are you doing? This is just this stupid thing. So that's why I say, despite the phone, it might be a good phone. Don't buy it. If you're looking for
tell them the
inexpensive
wrong
phone, don't buy this phone. I mean, you could probably get a Pixel A series or something like that, or the OnePlus, their budget phone. Yes, outright they cost more, but you could probably get them through a carrier for around $300 or less. Do that, because if you shouldn't be spending $300 a phone and then still have ads built into the lock screen, because that's just stupid.
Yeah, that's silly. Caleb, did you find out your oldest email?
2005. That's when I opened this account. It was in 2005.
Nice.
So
nice. Okay, stupid budget phone. I don't think we should buy that. We would send the wrong message saying, yes, we want ads on this. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
I've bought budget phones before, listener. At a certain point, it's just not worth it. Go buy an old iPhone.
Seriously.
Just buy a used iPhone. I can vouch for the 13. Still going strong. Absolutely fine. Like,
yeah.
And Caleb is going to live with that phone for as long as he lives, because
I'm going to die with this phone. Like, it's
going to be one of those longer ones you hold off to.
Uh-huh.
It's like me and Windows Phone, right?
Oh, you held on to that for way too long.
Yeah, at least mine's still getting software updates, Wes. Like, come on, man.
Right. It's true. I don't even want to load up one of those old ones I have just to see how. Be like, hey, I'd probably get a message. Hey, we don't do any kind of security updates for this, right?
Cortana's going to fire up on that phone and be like, you do know this all
my
died,
guy.
Right?
Right.
Now I kind of want you to.
I guess, yeah, just turn it on, see what happens, if it turns on.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get into some gaming news because, well, got a lot of Microsoft news in gaming because apparently that's the biggest thing for consumers right now for Microsoft is gaming. I mean, let's be real. All the people that are reporting on Microsoft are getting the clicks, and so they're going to keep reporting. And anything they do, they're going to be watching just so they can report, whether good or bad, for clicks and money. So here we are, going to be reporting on it. Kind of couple interesting things, though. So last week, the game developers conference was going on, and Phil Spencer was there, and he actually had a interview with Polygon, and a couple things that he had talked about I wanted to bring up and discuss. One, he discussed handhelds, but tried to avoid saying that Xbox was making a handheld. So we're going to get into the discussion. So what happened was they first talked to him about, hey, what do you think of the Valve Steam Deck? What do you think about the Asus ROG Ally? Which one's better for Xbox? And so he, said his suggestions. He's like, he really enjoys what the Steam Deck does and offers. It's really great to have everything there, but also be able to have Xbox on there. He really wishes they could have a more not so hacky way to streamline games onto there for Game Pass itself, not just that hacking like Windows onto it or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the Asus ROG Ally he really likes, but he's like, man, it would just be nice if the battery lasted. Little things that he said. And then he said what he would like in a handheld was pretty much if the Valve Steam Deck and the Asus ROG Ally had a baby, basically. All the good parts of it to this. There's been a lot of speculation that they are making a handheld. They've come out and said that they were going to, but he really made it to where he's not coming out and said it this year. But they're thinking that could be it. So thoughts around this, I was thinking about it myself, and I was like, a question I have here, does this play into the next gen lineup? And my thoughts on this, and what I'm thinking is, and I've actually heard this from other people that like podcasts and news sources, thinking that the next gen, if you will be one console, one handheld. So it'll be the successor to the Xbox Series X, and the handheld will be the successor to the Xbox Series X.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I was kind of thinking that would be pretty legit with all the things that's going on, the things that they're talking about, the little hints and everything that everyone's talking about. I was like, I could see something like this, but I really hope it's not a streaming device, a lone streaming device.
Yeah,
like you don't want it to be like the PlayStation thing that they came out with,
the Portal. Well, I hope they could take that and add that to other, like if the PlayStation Portal, the Steam, and the ROG all just kind of got together and they're like, what's the best of everything? Let's put it on this Xbox. What they call it, the Xbox Boy or the Game Boy, Game Boy, Xbox Boy, or whatever they want to call it. But so I say that with that, but I also wonder what you guys think. Is this? I say, do we, calling out platforms, want something like this? Would this interest you? And that's why I say, Landon, is this something that you'd be like looking at, like, hey, that's actually kind of cool, like something you would interest? For example, how you're like interested in a Nintendo Switch.
Well,
just because you play Nintendo games.
See, that's the thing. That's why I wouldn't be interested in this, because the reason I would buy a console was it'd be a Nintendo because I want the Nintendo games.
True.
But, when you initially said it, like this may be part of the next gen lineup, I'm like, that seems like a bad idea because I would imagine this would steal from the console. But if they're treating this as that lesser quote unquote console, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, if this is to replace the baseline, what is it, the Series S? Is that the
Series S?
So if this handheld were to replace that, and then the people that still want the little more power and the potential actual disk drive, which who knows if that'll actually happen, and then other things like that, more storage and different capabilities, buy the big full-on console, that actually is not a bad idea. And obviously it depends on price as well.
True.
But, and I mean, obviously as calling out platforms, I think we have to want something like this because duh.
Mhm.
I mean, we have to have more competition. I mean, right now yeah, Asus has their thing, but I think the Steam Deck is kind of the far and away best option right now in this sphere.
Overall, I think a lot of people enjoy that one better because one, they have their Steam library on this thing. So
I think the Steam Deck wins mainly on price. It's the kind of thing where Steam they're not selling the hardware as a major profit line. Like, they're making their money back on the hardware, but that's probably about it. They're basically selling it at cost because people buying games on Steam is how they make their money. So it's they're in a unique position to make something that costs less than other options. But one of the ways that they keep costs down is by not having to pay for a Windows license. And, so that's why Steam OS is a thing. And Valve has always been about the democratization of video games in a big way. And that's why Steam machines were a thing back in the day. That's why the Steam Link came into existence. And that's what the Steam Deck is about as well. So the ROG Ally and the Lenovo Legion handheld thing, I can't remember what they called that thing, but the Lenovo one and the Aya Neo and the GPD, I think, is the name of they were actually kind of the first ones into this space, but yeah, there's a bunch of different options. They just all tend to cost more than the Steam Deck does but they're also fully fledged Windows laptops when you come right down to it. So they're probably a little bit more useful, I guess, if you want to dock the thing and use it as a computer. I think that if you have Xbox get into this as well, you're going to end up with a device that is more like the Steam Deck in that it is entirely focused on only video games and is going to be kind of crappy for anything else. So that would make it different than the ROG Ally, right? It's going to be running not Windows, it's going to be running some kind of Xbox operating system. Like the Steam Deck is running its own custom thing, and it's going to be very tightly integrated with your Xbox library, and they're probably going to emphasize streaming, but I think it would be stupid not to make it able to install local games and play local games. PlayStation. So I think that would, because the console makers tend to sell their hardware at the cost, I think they would probably be able to make it pretty darn price competitive with the Steam Deck, and that would be nifty. Like, I think that's kind of the thing. Currently, you have a whole bunch of good options, and then you have the Steam Deck, which for the money is just kind of unbeatable.
Right.
I think Xbox getting into that space makes it there would be an actual price competitor for the Steam Deck. And in a way that none of these other companies can approach, because they all have to make a profit off of selling you the hardware.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it would be cool. I think that it would possibly have its own set of issues. Are they going to be as focused on making the device easily upgradable and repairable the way that Valve has? Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe not. Like, it could go either way with Microsoft. It's honestly really hard to say.
Yeah. He did mention a little things like that. He did say in the interview that, he's actually been using all the different devices like the Lenovo Legion Go. He admitted that the experience of the current experience of using an Xbox app on gaming handheld is not great. He says he also acknowledges some of his frustrations are also the result of these devices running Windows, a platform that is not optimized for these new forms.
Yeah.
And so he's come out and said pretty much what we've been thinking.
Yeah.
And so,
well, if they would have kept Windows Phone, it might have been optimized for it,
It's interesting because there's a lot of things that have come up recently that they're just like, man, we're kicking ourselves in the butt for closing Windows Phone. Because they're like, we want our own mobile store, we want our own Windows, all this stuff. And they keep coming up in interviews I've seen saying that. So,
yeah, I think it would be silly to suppose that Xbox is not actively pursuing a handheld of some kind.
Yeah.
Like, it's to the point where technically even PlayStation has one, even though it's a turd. But
I would be surprised if PlayStation isn't behind the scenes making something like the Steam Deck.
Actually, yes, I think that's probably true.
if this was their full on answer to that, then that's just so bad.
So bad. Yeah, it's awful.
Okay, so the next part of this, the last part of the interview he talked about, Phil Spencer also suggested that he wants to allow other game stores in the Xbox ecosystem on hardware that they're making. So he didn't say the handheld, but he also didn't say the console. He said in the Xbox ecosystem, and he pointed out a couple different stores that he said, notably, obviously, Epic Game Store on the Xbox consoles, but also I believe it's called itch.io. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
IT. Those are the ones that are quoted, obviously. And he says, with our company's history of Windows history, he's, nobody would blink twice if he said, hey, we're using your PC, so you get to decide what experience you have. And he says there's value in that. And so a lot of people were me thinking about it, I'm like, that, I don't know, that'd be kind of interesting. And I've heard that a lot of that have heard this say, point that I want to make and see what you guys think. Does this actually hurt the Xbox brand, say, if they were to bring other stores, say, on the handheld that we're talking about, or even on the Xbox? Like, would it really hurt it?
Well, listen, I'm on a PC, so
right.
I don't know. It's very much the same kind of argument that I suspect Apple has already made in court somewhere at some point, because they've made every single argument in favor of having a single integrated store on a platform. The fact of the matter is, listener, if you are sitting over here offended by the idea of Phil Spencer suggesting allowing other game stores onto the Xbox, you're in favor of Apple. That's what that comes right down to. I'm sorry. Xbox has complete monolithic control over the games that get installed on the Xbox, and they all have to pay a commission to Xbox in order to put their games on there. I would guess that Xbox would still grab a commission even if it was coming from another game store. It would just be a significantly smaller commission.
I feel the same, yeah.
It would be a couple of percent or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that, especially in the case of stuff that's being developed on itch.io, because, if you're not familiar with that platform, listener, it's basically just indie game heaven. Pretty much. It's like a lot of work in progress games. Like you can play and play test stuff that's in development over there, and then there's no cost to hosting stuff on itch.io. Like you can put a game on itch.io for free, and then if people that you can put it up there and have it cost nothing, itch.io will host it, and people can download it, and you pay nothing, they pay nothing. Itch.io covers it, and that's super cool. Also, you can ask for money. You can charge money for stuff on there, and you get to dictate how much, what percentage itch.io takes. And I think the lowest you can go is 3%, or maybe it's 1%. They might let it's 1%. They'll just grab 1% of the purchase price, and then whoever can buy the game. So it's a really cool place for people to develop fun little indie projects, and a ton of Game Jam games get published on itch.io because there's no barrier to entry. That does mean that there's also a whack ton of crap on there. So be choosy about what you download, but it's a pretty cool service. And to have that on Xbox, to basically make it so that people could publish to the broader Xbox community from itch.io, that's neat. That's neat. Yes, Xbox will probably skim another couple of percent off the top of whatever itch is already taking, but still cool. That's a much larger player base. So cool. I don't think that anybody cares about the Epic Game Store coming to Xbox. Like, let's be honest,
Yeah.
anything that's on the Epic Game Store is already on the Xbox, and I don't think publishers are going to be like, oh yeah, let's put it on the Epic Game Store instead of on the Xbox Store to distribute on Xbox, because if we do it on the Xbox Store, then we have to pay 30%, whereas if we do it on the Epic Game Store, we have to pay 12% plus probably another 15% because that's what Xbox is going to take, so it's basically 30% anyways, and why the crap would we do that twice? That just seems like a lot of work, so let's not. But, you know, Epic can keep dreaming. I don't think they're ever going to turn a profit on the Epic Game Store, but more power to you, guys.
Yeah, we'll see. I think I like the idea. I don't know how exactly it'd be implemented, but the one thing I fear or I don't want is actually a little bit of the topic later. One of the topics that I have is actually when you have all these different things. So if we're talking about Windows, you know, hey, I want to play this game. And so I download it on Steam, but the game is a Ubisoft game that I have to download the Ubisoft launcher to run the game in Steam. So I have to have 3 different launchers to play one game. Versus, say on the Xbox, you just click the game and it just starts. So
yeah,
that's the one thing I do fear with the multi-store thing, because it's that, I mean, so for example, I mean, we have this example with EA and the EA Play on the Xbox console itself. I can just, it says, oh, here's this game that's an EA game. You can just download it and play it on the console. Sweet. I subscribe. I get it. If I were to do that on the PC, I have to download the Xbox app and then click download the game, but play it. But for me to play it, I have to then download the EA launcher or whatever they call it, the player, whatever, and make sure that's up and running so they both can talk to say, yes, he is a Game Pass subscriber. Here you go. And so I wish that's a little more streamlined. That's the one thing I fear with the multiple stores. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is an extra couple steps. It just, like I said, on the console, you just hit the game and go, and it's done. So
you're just making me nostalgic for back when you could just buy a DVD and it had the whole game on it.
And have the game.
You could just
exactly
stick it into the slot onto the front of the console and it would just play the game.
Just play Cyberpunk on your thousands of floppies. It's right here.
Holy
Got
crap,
it,
man.
Now, so
different time.
And then the next top I kind of just threw in there for the same thing for the game stores on Xbox would be, what would this open up for the future? Kind of, we talked a little bit about it, like, you know, you talked about Epic Game Store, what would they do? I guess if Microsoft, I feel like Microsoft would be the one to be able to do this, to see if it would be successful or not. But I don't know.
It's really questionable to me whether or not this whole like, oh yeah, let's have a whole bunch of different game stores on, you know, these individual platforms or app stores on the iPhone and that kind of thing. It reminds me a little bit of back when SourceForge was a thing, and like if you wanted to download software, you just go to SourceForge and you just search for software and you could download it all right there, and then it just filled up with malware.
I thought that was LimeWire.
Well, yeah, that's
yes.
No, listener, to be absolutely clear, SourceForge is still a thing. What's another one? 2 Cows, similar deal. Do not visit. Like to say anything about downloading anything, do not visit those sites, right? You're gonna get an STD. Like, it's a problem. So, like, there's people keep talking about how they want like these open platforms and that sort of thing, but I feel like the main advantage of some of these platforms, you know, maybe I think this applies more to video game consoles than it does to smartphones, to be clear, but one of the main advantages of some of these platforms is that they are just easy to use. You don't have to worry about like, oh, well, crap, if I go get this storefront, am I going to accidentally like flood my phone with malicious apps? Like, or, you know, if I go grab this game store? Am I going to accidentally pay Tim Sweeney money? I mean, download a whole bunch of virus-filled games that are going to hijack my Xbox? It's just like, you know, that there is an advantage in simplicity to having everything go through a single storefront.
Yes.
What I think a better approach to this would be for, you know, a company like Xbox to say, hey, we're going to open up the storefront on our platform to content that is hosted by other people. Right? So not necessarily, hey, here's a new storefront, here's third-party stores inside of the Xbox. It's, here's the Xbox storefront, but not all of the games are hosted by Microsoft. And then basically be like, look, you can just give us a feed, right, to whatever server you're hosting your stuff off of. We're still going to review it, make sure that this isn't a virus. But like,
yeah,
you know, it's the review is basically just like a standard. We're going to download the thing. We're going to run it through a code check, verify that it's not a virus. And every time you update it, we're going to do that again. But in terms of verifying content and functionality and stuff like that, no, just not going to do it. Don't care. Whatever. We're not hosting it. Not our circus, not our monkeys. And then they'll just list it alongside everything else in the storefront and take a significantly smaller percentage off the top of any purchases, right? So that Epic could list all of their games in the Xbox storefront and then host them from their own servers and do their own payment methodology and stuff like that. And Xbox takes 5% instead of 30% of any purchases made through there. And, you know, it's so that way it becomes pretty much like seamless to the user. It's all invisible. It's all happening in the background, but you know, you still have a lot more opportunity for competition from large players that are able to host content themselves, instead of just having a whole bunch of different storefronts, some of which at some point in time could very well turn into the SourceForge of Xbox. You know, like I don't think that it makes sense to turn our game consoles into PCs. Right? Like we already have PCs. I feel like the game console is targeted at a very different market.
Yeah, I was gonna say something very similar, because I was like, I just don't want it to the Xbox or the I mean, not that PlayStation would do this. I mean, they might have to if Xbox does, but I don't want these consoles to turn into more or less a heavily skinned computer, because that's basically what they would be if we kept going down that road. It would just be a PC with an Xbox or PlayStation UI. I mean, the operating system would more or less be Windows. I mean, it kind of already is already, but it would be even more so than it is. And it would just have a user interface that makes it look like a gaming console, and it wouldn't be. So I agree with Caleb. I don't want that to be the case, because that's where you get into the problems of, you know,
of PCs.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of great things about gaming on a PC, don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot of crap. Like I cannot, listener, like if you play games on Xbox or PlayStation, I'm sure you're familiar with the obnoxious thing that happens where it's been a week since you've played a game and you have some time now and you're like, hey, I want to boot this sucker up and I want to play my favorite game. And you get in there and there's like a 4 gig download for the thing before you can actually play it. And then you have to sit and wait for the download. It's obnoxious. You're right. Yeah. So imagine that on PC, because we totally have that exact same thing, but also you have to wait for driver updates to happen. And also you have like Windows just randomly shutting off while you're playing a game because it's going to install updates in the background, or it did install updates in the background and now they want to run. Or imagine it's all like, hey, I'm playing a game and suddenly my frame rate drops into the toilet because Windows Defender decided right now was the time to run a virus scan on my computer. Yep. And but you can't turn Windows Defender off because otherwise all of your bank account information is going to go up for sale on the dark web. Like, there are problems to gaming on a PC in addition to all of the good things as well. And that's what consoles do, is they address all the problems of the PC with a couple of compromises, sure, but like it's a balancing act between what matters most to you, listener. For me personally, gaming on a PC makes a lot more sense than gaming on a console like an Xbox, but it isn't that way for everyone. Right. And, you know, millions upon millions of people have voted with their wallets, and what they don't want is a PC. They voted for consoles. They voted for dedicated freaking consoles. And the only company that seems to understand that in this day and age is, oh my gosh, Nintendo. What the snot? Nintendo understands the consumer. I hate that sentence.
I think in my opinion, I like the idea of what you were saying. I was kind of going off of like the subscription side of things, because obviously they've got, so on Microsoft or the Xbox, you have the EA Play subscription, you got the Ubisoft Plus subscription, and they got the subscriptions on there that you can have. And then if you have the subscription, it pretty much says, oh yeah, here you go. You can just download and play it.
Yeah.
Even Game Pass games, I guess. Yeah, even that. But I like the idea to be like, hey, you've linked your Steam account. You have these games on Steam, and these are available on Xbox. You can download and just play them. Now, in the background, maybe that's what it is. Steam still hosts those.
Yeah.
But Microsoft's just, it's that seamless thing. And see, I love
storefront.
that idea.
Yep. Yeah, that would be really cool.
I mean, it's more or less like what you do on your television right now. Say if you're running an Apple TV or a Roku or a Chromecast or something, you can access all of these different apps and shows from different apps in one central location on Apple TV and Chromecast. Not on Roku, sorry, unfortunately. But on Apple TV and on Chromecast, it's all just right there in the main screen, like any show from any platform, and you just click on that show and it starts playing. But it's not coming from Apple or from Google. It's coming from Disney or from Netflix or from Amazon. You know, it's coming from different places. So I really like the idea of that on a console. It's all in one space. You may have to subscribe to different things to get these games, or whatever,
or link your account or whatever.
But just having it all work in the background seamlessly makes a lot of sense. And then it does make it cheaper for these companies, because they're not paying to host their game in 18 different places. They're paying to host it on their own servers and then just distribute it at other places. That's really,
I think technically
really
isn't that what's starting to happen with crossplay anyway? Now that I think about that, it's like, if I play Overwatch, I'm technically not on Xbox servers. I'm technically on Battle.net, right? Am I thinking the right way?
Yeah,
or am I thinking wrong?
So, and that's how the crossplayer for cloud-based games has worked, is that if you're playing the game, then you are, you're on their servers. That's where the game instance happens. But the actual game installation is still coming from Xbox.
Right.
Like Blizzard,
but
Blizzard has to publish an executable with Microsoft to host on their storefront in order to download to the Xbox. And then once you sign into your Battle.net account through that Xbox, then it's all like, hey, I guess you don't have to tie it to your Battle.net account technically, but
Overwatch you do now. The requirement.
You probably don't have to, but if you want to be able to tie it to cross progression and cross play on other devices, then you do, kind of thing. I don't know. But, that was always happening on, Call of Duty. That was always being played on Call of Duty servers, but the executable, the game, had to be run through Xbox, right? Right. They were the ones that were publishing, and they were still taking a cut off of those purchases and that kind of thing. So I think that changing it so that you can also get the actual game executable from a different source, but still get it through the Xbox store.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's probably what the sweet spot is.
Yeah, I think that I like that idea. And I think that, and to wrap it all up, I think that's what we want as for the future, for the quote unquote opening up the Xbox stores for that, I think would be good. So anything else on that? Should we move on?
I'm good.
Okay. So the next topic here, I wanted to kind of mention, which I feel would be good. Microsoft is starting to test mouse and keyboard inputs for Xbox cloud gaming. Which I don't know. I feel like I hope there's a little more to this. On this article that I was reading on this, what I'm meaning is they said they've been inviting Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members. I really wish they would also, and maybe they do, and this is typo, is hopefully they also offer PC Game Pass members for this as well, to test mouse and keyboard inputs while playing games on the X Cloud Gaming.
Well, I don't think the cloud gaming is included with PC Game Pass, so that's probably why they're not inviting them.
Is it not?
I don't think so. I haven't checked in a while, but I'm pretty sure.
Maybe that's where I made the mistake then. I thought
I'm
it was.
Pretty sure it's not. Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's why.
I think that you can do. I think you have to pay for Game Pass Ultimate in order to get that on the PC.
Gotcha. Maybe I missed. I've just always had Ultimate from the get-go, so
Hell yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, okay, maybe I'm wrong on that, so that's why.
Gotta have your
I'm glad we said that at the beginning then. So they say that as of today, support is only available on Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, and the Xbox app on Windows PCs. They said, and only 14 cloud-enabled games are compatible. So, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I always like the testing a game. It's actually kind of a cool feature. If I'm like, do I really want to play this game? I can just hop in, start playing it. I'm like, this is actually pretty fun. Download it, go.
Yeah. And I suppose this, well, I'll say this. Anybody who's paying for Game Pass Ultimate so that they actually do have access to the cloud gaming stuff, they probably have an Xbox controller they would rather use. Just generally speaking, that's kind of the demographics for that, I suspect.
Well, I know that they've put keyboard and mouse stuff on, and it's kind of interesting. I've actually talked to quite a few people that have an Xbox that use keyboard and mouse on it.
Yeah, and that's been rolling out for years, but just generally speaking, most people use their Xbox controller to play games on their Xbox, and if they're going to be playing those same games on a PC through the cloud, they're probably still going to want to use the controller because, speaking from loads of experience on this one, it really sucks to try and switch back and forth between control schemes, like on a single game when you're trying to play through the thing. It's so disorienting and oh gosh, yeah, not good times.
But if you want to test this out, you can. I guess the first note I already talked to Caleb here, and I guess it nullifies what I was going to say on here. I was like, hey, does this interest PC Master Race to sub to PC Game Pass? Guess what? No, because it doesn't come to PC Game Pass.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
he answered that.
I think the real question is this going to get the PC Game Pass subscribers interested in Game Pass Ultimate? Because, that would include that. And basically that would be like me having all my PC Game Pass stuff, but also being able to hop into a browser on my Mac and play the same games over the cloud. There's definitely, or your phone or a computer at a friend's house or whatever, there's definitely an appeal to that, but yes, you do have to pay for Game Pass Ultimate in order to get it. So is it worth that? I don't know. At that point, I'd almost rather just play games on my phone when I'm away from home. I have Apple Arcade. I'll just play some of those. I don't know. It's very much it'll be interesting to see whether or not they're able to successfully convert PC Game Pass subscribers to Game Pass Ultimate subscribers at any point, considering that really the only selling point for it right now is cloud gaming.
for someone like that. So, okay. Second point was, would it make you sub to it? But I mean,
not me.
Yeah. So, all right, we're gonna move on a little bit here. We had talked a little bit about this discussion, but earlier about the Phil Spencer interview. But real quick, Diablo 4 is on PC Game Pass. They went ahead and put that on there. That was a big thing. This is probably the first rollout of the big Activision Blizzard games coming to Game Pass. Diablo 4. But there's a caveat. You have to download Battle.net. So this is that thing we were talking about. Now, you and I, Caleb, we already have Battle.net installed.
Yeah.
So we understand where this is coming. Like, okay. So, but this is kind of that thing I was talking about. I just don't like if I open the Xbox, which I have, I tried this out. I opened the Xbox app for the PC. Obviously, guess what's recently added right up front here? Diablo. So I go ahead and I can click on Diablo here, and I say install it here. The first thing that comes up, it says Battle.net with Game Pass. Before you can play Battle.net games, you'll need to do a one-time setup of Battle.net. Battle.net account is required. So this is a whole other thing you have to download that we were talking about to play Diablo. Now, I did not check Steam. Do you know if Steam does the same thing, or can you just run Diablo natively in Steam? I did not check.
I am not sure. I have not looked.
Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if it does the same thing, because I have I don't even friggin' a half dozen Ubisoft games or something like that in my Steam library, and every time I try to launch one of them, it's all like, here, download this thing, and I'm like, frickin' Ubisoft Connect. I hate it.
Yep.
And it does the same thing with oh gosh, it wasn't even that long I tried to do it. Who owns oh my gosh, what BioShock? Who's got BioShock? Who's the publisher of BioShock? I can't remember. But like not that long ago, they started
No,
it's not Epic. They started requiring a launcher to launch in order to play the games. And I went to, I download updates to my games when they come, and I had an update to BioShock Infinite. And as sad as it is, as much as I love BioShock Infinite, I still haven't finished the DLCs for BioShock Infinite. It's been so long. And so I don't know, 8 months to a year ago or something like that, I was like, hey, I'm going to sit down and play some of the DLC in BioShock Infinite. And I went to launch the game, and it was all like
2K.
And it's trying to 2K. That's it. There you go. Yes.
2K. Yep.
And I went and launched the game, and Steam started downloading a 2K launcher, and I'm like, what? This wasn't a thing before. What the crap?
Yeah.
So no, that happens all the time in Steam. So it would not surprise me at all to go to Steam, try to launch Diablo 4, and have it be like, all right, and here's Battle.net.
Yep. So
that's life on the PC. So once again, listener, there are problems to gaming on a PC that you don't want on your Xbox.
Right. So when I actually go to the Battle.net launcher, which I've already had installed and I've already got my stuff linked and everything, when I click on Diablo 4, the button to install does not say purchase. It now says install. So I could just install it and go. So yes, the big Diablo 4 on PC Game Pass is there. Now, talking point here I think is very important. Will Caleb finally come back to Sanctuary?
See, here's the thing. Diablo 4 is no longer a single player, or not even, I guess Diablo 3 and Diablo 2 had plenty of multiplayer aspects to them. Diablo 4 is no longer a self-contained kind of fully finished experience the way that previous games in the franchise were, because Activision wanted a live service game. And so Diablo 4 has adopted a lot of live service stuff, very,
Yes.
Along the lines of Destiny and stuff like that. And I am not, generally speaking, a fan of live service games. The one exception to that is that I am very interested in Helldivers 2. simply because of the way that the larger community interacts with the game is super neat.
It is cool. It is.
I
cool.
would be willing. So probably not. I'm probably not going back to Sanctuary. I'm probably going to Super Earth and doing
democracy.
that instead. Yeah. I'm doing my part.
Yep. That one. That's a good one. I've heard. I don't know. I haven't played it, but that's fun.
I haven't either. That's not on Game Pass, is it?
No, Helldivers
No,
is
it's
PlayStation and PC.
Freaking, that's right. So I would have to pay money for it, but it's only $40, and by all accounts, it's like, I don't know, the best game of 2024 so far. So
now I think what we need to do is put a thing on our Patreon. If someone subscribes to our Patreon, say Caleb will join Sanctuary. I mean, he technically doesn't have to pay for it now. So
I mean, that's true.
And make him get a level of character all the way to 100. So
oh gosh, dude, I haven't even done that like with the Diablo games I do like, like
just saying, throwing it out the Patreon.
I'm just saying. I think the closest I ever got in Diablo 3 was level 70 something. Like, I don't even think I ever made it to 80, which is where
70 is the cap on Diablo 3.
Is 70 the cap?
And then you just restart those Paragon levels.
Oh.
So
wow. Okay, well, maybe I do it then. Because I do remember getting at least one character in Diablo 3 up to level 70. What was the level cap in Diablo 2?
100.
Was it 100? Yeah, I never hit that. Like,
I never did
close.
in Diablo 2 either. So, all right. Well, maybe we'll put that on there.
You beat that game at like level 30 something. Like, why?
Yep.
It's just I guess the point is just do hardcore next, Yep,
harder difficulties. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on. Last bit of gaming news here. I feel like this is good. I think. So Take-Two is going to acquire Gearbox for $460 million. I believe Embracer Group bought it for like $1 billion something.
Embracer Group, man.
So, okay, I say this is a good thing because anything we can get away from Embracer Group is a good thing.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. Embracer Group did the, you know what, listener? This is the third podcast in a row that I am going to just point you at Second Wind, okay? YouTube.com/Second Wind. Go there. The cold take that was published today, April 1st, mentions Embracer Group in a larger conversation about how, in a really weird, stupid application of capitalist economics, we have actually incentivized crap games from AAA developers. Like, we have incentivized failure.
Yes.
And the way that Embracer Group got their money in order to buy up all of the rights and studios and everything that they did, was it. Oh man, it's just bad. And like,
it is.
You kind of understand why it seems like nothing good can come from these large AAA publishers at this point. And I think that yes, anything that we can get away from Embracer Group at this point is probably good. Probably a good thing. And I think that the Gearbox employees are, like, frankly, Take-Two can't be worse. Like, odds were very good that Embracer was going to straight up lay you all off anyways. So, yeah. Just, it's good, but it's not like great news. Take-Two is not exactly, they don't exactly have a perfectly spotless reputation or anything like that. But in the current climate, yeah, this feels like a good move.
Yeah. I mean, they said that it should be wrapped up by June of this year, everything. And so basically they said they're going to run them as an independent operation, obviously, but under the umbrella and everything. So, I mean, they've been working together. I think Take-Two's helped Gearbox quite a bit. So there is a working relationship there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see with that. I mean, it's better than just closing studios. It's nice to, overall, it's nice to see that with the consolidating and everything that's happening, that there are some, say, for example, not just this, but Microsoft, that Toys for Bob, instead of closing it down, they actually made them independent. And they're like, here, you go be independent, but you're going to work on our first game. Here you go. So, instead of saying, we're closing them down. So they're actually, I think that's good. I personally do. And there's a couple other companies that have done this. So
yeah, at the same time, I feel like the move in the gaming industry that needs to happen is more and more people moving away from big publishers. Like, I think that indie is kind of the future of the industry. And listener, if you buy a lot of games, maybe stop buying full price AAA games. Just stop. Just don't do it. You're done. No more $70 games. That was too much anyways. They weren't worth it. Go pay $40 for Helldivers 2.
Yeah, $40. That's a perfect example.
Go pay. I think, how much was Baldur's Gate 3? Was it 50? I think it might have been 50.
It might have been a regular price, 60, 50 or 60.
I can't think of the top of my head. I think it was less than that, but
you buy everything on sale, so
that's true. Go buy independent games. Basically, just go look at those. There are so many out there. They're doing way more interesting and entertaining stuff than the AAA games industry right now. Anyways, like, have you heard of Skull and Bones? That's not triple. That's quadruple, Caleb. Just don't buy them. Just don't. No more big games from big publishers. Buy little games from small publishers and independent studios, and put the money in the industry there. And that, I think that would bring around a lot of high quality, positive change in the industry.
Do your part.
I'm doing my part.
Do your part.
Wow, Helldivers is everywhere.
It is. Yeah. All right. Well, that's the last topic I have here on gaming. I think that's the last thing that we're going to talk about, unless Landon has one more thing.
No.
It's quite the pause. If you can, find a drum roll for us, will you? Put that in there. That was long enough for one.
I mean, I have a drum set behind me. I could just, do that.
That would be awesome, actually. All right. Well, dear listener, we appreciate you listening all the way to the end of the episode. If you want to get a hold of us, you can at our social media platforms, as well as callingallplatforms.com. If you want to check out the YouTube channel with a very long promise of getting a video up there.
Look, it's been a really hectic month, and
one of these days, if we're not recording, or if we have a day, we need to just sit down and stream a game, just a random game, and see how it goes.
You heard of Balatro? Apparently, that's a huge
Balatro?
hit. Oh yeah, it's the deck builder that's poker themed.
Oh yes, I have actually. There's a lot of people that have said yes.
A lot of people making a lot of really glowing statements about that game.
Okay, maybe we'll do a quick stream on that. We haven't done that in a while, so we'll have to do it. But, dear listener, you have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.